Hello, I'm Tronimo. This is my radio voice, and you're listening to the Scene World podcast. That was
Okay. Hey, it's Scene World, a podcast. He's Jörg, I'm AJ, and we are in year 75 of the end of the world.
No, year 75 was actually for Formula One, but
oh, really?
That I'm not sure if we're into that. And they had a special event in the O2 Arena in UK a few days ago, where they presented all the new colors of the cars this year. So it was actually pretty neat.
Yeah. Do they change them every year?
Different, huh?
Do they change them every year? Like, how does that work? Like here's some different colors.
Yeah, they change the car every year, and they change the color every year because obviously the sponsors change. You know.
Oh, okay, different. Okay,
yeah.
It's gonna be like, and this year introducing blue.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, for example, one of the teams got Atlassian as a main sponsor, and the other one got HP. So that means the color scheme of the car would change more to blue to reflect more on the title sponsor. So that is actually how it works, you know.
And with the HP car, they probably won't be able to use it until they get a firmware update. And if one of the colors runs out, then none of them will print.
But that was an Epson meme, not a HP meme, but still, yeah. There's actually an Epson meme about it.
Yeah. HP is the one that wanted to make turn printing into a service, like a subscription.
I know. Yeah. Well, they had to roll back this firmware release because they got a big of shitstorm for that. But Epson is the one where I want you to make the house white. We can't until we get a new yellow ink. Like,
right?
what?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Oh, your cyan ink is run out. Okay, I'm printing in black and white. Doesn't matter. Your cyan ink is empty.
I know. Yeah. Well, I'm having a Dell at the moment. Actually, my Dell laser printer is from 2014, which is funny because Dell doesn't do printers anymore. But hey,
is it like a rebadge, like an Epson with a Dell name on it? Because I think Apple did that. Like their style, their laser writer, or the inkjet ones they had. I think those were Canons that had just had an Apple name on it.
No, there is actually a Xerox printer model that is similar to the one from
Okay.
Yeah.
I think Commodore even too, like the MPS. I think the 801 was a different thing, and the 803 were also different models as well. I want to say.
Yeah, well, actually, as I said, I think it was a Xerox one because I remember trying out Xerox ink. No, not ink. Toner, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, but anyway, the thing is, the printer and of course my the super how it's called, super kernel, super kernel upgrade are the two main reasons why I'm still having insecure VPS2 Wi-Fi encryption, because if I ever change to something more secure in my home Wi-Fi, I would have to stop using super kernel on the C64 and
I was right.
using the printer.
Yeah, the MPS 801 it's a Seikosha printer. It was the Seikosha version of the MPS 801 is the GP 500 VC. So it's a rebadged. Yeah, the MPS 801 is a rebadged Seikosha printer.
Interesting. Didn't know that.
I wonder if the 802. I've got an 802. I love my 802. My 802 is British.
But the 802 is actually not
That's
not. It's not a graphic printer. It's a text
no,
printer.
I'm sorry. The 803. 803 is what I like. That's what I have. 803. It's basically the same thing as an 801, but just small.
Exactly, but the 802 is different because it's only a text printer, text print only. It doesn't have a graphic mode.
Right.
But well, we discussed it with Greg Nasu in an episode before.
Right. But I'm not talking. I'm talking about
GEOS. In GEOS, you can
though.
actually work around. They actually worked around the printer not having a graphic mode by simply printing multiple times the same line, just neatly underneath, and suddenly, hey, it can print graphic.
Yeah.
And I know my grandfather was super amazed when I told him it can print graphic. It was like, no, it can't. It's a text-only printer. And I'm showing you. And so I loaded up GEOS 2.0 and I showed him that actually with the right driver, you can print graphic. And he was totally amazed because officially the printer MPS 802 can't print graphic.
Right. Yeah.
So
but I'm talking about the 803 though.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
which is actually a brother printer. That's a brother. It's an M1009, a brother printer.
Interesting. Yeah.
Which they still make ink for. You can still get the ribbons for that thing, brand new.
I know. They are still. Yeah. Because
the funny thing, you're talking about the 802 printing graphics. And I've probably told this story about a million times. I had a blue chip daisy wheel printer when I was younger.
Oh yeah, you told the story already.
And I figured out a way where you could print out graphics with it by just using the period key, which ultimately I wore out and then I had to change it to like the comma and whatnot. But I got it to do that, which wasn't. It took about 500 years to print out one page of graphics, but it worked.
The difference, however, though, next to the ROM was actually that the printers back then had different amount of needles. Mm-hmm. So, for example, a Star LC20 dash, I don't know, was it an LC20 dash something 20? I think it was. If I'm not mistaken, it was an LC20 dash 20 because there was also a 20 dash 10. And GEOS couldn't handle the LC20-20, so you had to use the driver of the LC20-10 instead because it was compatible. But here's the thing: is those Star LC printers for the PC also worked on the Commodore 64, but they had 24 needles, and the MPS 802 only had 9 needles. Yeah.
Is that correct? Because
or was it 8 needles?
It was an 8-pin printer.
Eight.
So most
so I had 8-pin printers, 8 needle printers, and 24 needles.
So most printers. This is kind of one of my when I used to program back in the day. Not but even before demo stuff, just programming. Printers were kind of like my specialty. Like I was really good at that. Most printers came in either 9-pin or 24-pin. Those were kind of like the two main things, and that is.
But didn't we say it was 8-pin?
Well, yeah, I'm getting to that. Most came in 9 or 24-pin. In which.
So it was correct saying 9 before.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, most of them came like that because what you had was the print heads. I'm explaining this to anyone listening. The print heads had these little pins that would impact through the ribbon of the printer. All right, and that's how you'd get your dot matrix.
That's why they are called dot matrix or needle printer.
Right. So normally you'd have like a matrix of 8 pins, okay, or rather 9 pins or 24 pins, and that's how detailed what your dot pitch was, essentially the resolution of the thing. Commodore, the 802, the MPS 802, which could only do text, was an 8-pin printer, so it didn't have the full 9 pins; it had 8. And the MPS 801 and the 803 was a 7-pin printer. That's why you've got, when you print things out, you've got weird, like the G's, the lowercase G's don't descend because it doesn't have enough pins to do that. And there were some, I had this Seikosha printer that would do 2 passes, because, and again, a lot of times you think now, like you use like Microsoft Word or something and you select the font you want to print with, and that's what it prints with. Back in the day on those printers, that wasn't really how it worked. You would work with the font that the printer had built in. Usually you had like maybe a couple to pick from. And like that Seikosha printer I had a near letter quality mode where it would print once and then it would go back and print that line again, slightly off skewed, giving it was a 9-pin printer, but it would give it an 18-pin look because it would go back and do it again slightly off, so it would make it look nicer. Not as good as a 24-pin printer, but it would try. And then there was other stuff too, like the MPS 801 and 3. They were, the dot pitch was like 6 or 7 high, but then in width it was like 6 pixels wide or 6 dots wide. So you really had like, it's a weird printer. And when you try to print things with geos, like a GeoPaint document, like it'll chop off the edge of the thing because that wants it to be a 9-pin printer, and these ain't.
Yeah, well, the thing about those printers back in the day is the near letter quality, NHL. It was actually to emulate a typewriter.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It usually had like a serif font and a sans serif. It depended, you know. A lot of times there was just a button on your printer you could push to select which font you wanted.
Yeah, not for the Commodore printers though.
No, Commodore printers had one font.
And for Star LC, you actually had to go into the menu of the printer and change the programming of the whole printer. That was super complicated. So you had that was super messy. I still remember that it was a whole process to make the printer stop working with the PC and started working with the Commodore 64. Yeah. So, wow.
I think, you know, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm going to look it up real quick. I think the Okamate 10 was also a 7 or 8-pin printer.
Could be.
Even if it's because I remember that having the same kind of, it was an early one. That was an odd one. That didn't use impact. That used thermal. So it would melt the ink.
Oh my God, thermal is a whole different story.
Yeah,
let's not go into that.
If you wanted to get good printing on that, you wanted to get like the fax machine paper that like kind of coated, smooth, like receipt sort of paper.
The problem, however, though, after a year or so, you couldn't read it anymore.
If you took care of it, you could. I had one for a long time. I don't see what the dot pitch of that is. I had one of them for years, and it did pretty good. If you cleaned it, there was a way to clean it. I don't remember what that is anymore, because it's been years. But there was a way to clean it, and that would kind of make it last for a while. Yeah, I don't recall what the. I think that was like it was 9-pin. It was a 9-pin element.
Anyway, should we start with the news?
Sure.
With how our guest
we've
is
babbled about printers for a while. I don't even know how we got onto printers. But yeah, in a minute.
You can still look back at the recording if you wonder how that happened.
In a minute, we'll be talking with Nordischsound about
Benjamin Dibbert, right?
Yes. Yeah. About everything that's going on there. But before we do that, though, news.
Yeah. Well, I got plenty.
Good, great.
Yeah. Well, for once, Golden Axe has been ported from Sega 16 arcade hardware to Neo Geo arcade hardware. And it's available for free at itch.io, so you can download the ROM set for Neo Geo.
Okay.
So if you ever wondered, well, I mean, why not porting it from one arcade hardware to another, I guess. Well, now there is, at least. Other thing, we had Tag of Joy recently, and as a guest, and one of the co-founders at least, and now they announced Crown & Pawns is actually coming to the Xbox Series X and S, to Xbox One, to Sony's PS4 and PS5. So it's going to new consoles. So that's that's a thing. Yeah. Other news, South African streamer Joey Beer, which we also had in the podcast, but that was one episode you missed, started producing smashing game music, and she started with an album called Gamers Plays 2025, and needs funds for publishing, copyright protection, and distributing the music. So you can help her by getting this published.
Okay.
Yeah, we will link to that, of course, obviously. So that's it. On the other hand, Scotty Allen, aka Strange Parts, aka the iPhone guy, which we also had in the podcast a few years ago, he announced on Mastodon that he will be at the open source, not open source, but the event is called Open Source again this summer. He will be one of the VIP guests being there. So if you want to be there, go there. And other news. BGG Entertainment signs Chris Hülsberg for Boulder Dash 40th anniversary. So the soundtrack will be done by the master himself. If you do remember, Boulder Dash was actually how to say? Yeah, it was invented by Peter Lipa in Canada.
Okay.
And Boulder Dash, Peter Lipa did the interview himself. The music himself, I wanted to say. The music himself. And we actually had an interview with him, a text interview, in one of the early issues of Scene World magazine. So I will link to that issue as well if you want to check it out.
Okay.
And so it's quite interesting that it's getting a 14th anniversary release, and Chris Hülsberg is actually doing the music. Now, Chris Hülsberg is very active at the moment in doing music, because also a few days earlier to this recording, X Out, which is also called Cross Out, resurfaced, has been released on PS5, Switch, and PC. So it's actually a re-release. That's why it's called Resurfaced of Crossout on the Amiga.
Okay.
Crossout has also been on the C64. Personally, as I'm a C64 guy, I have the game on the C64, and they did a very, very faithful port to the PC. So it has the intro, it has the digital voice at the intro, and it even plays like the Amiga version. It has some live improvement features, but generally it's not totally reinvented, other than having the new soundtrack by Chris Hülsberg. However, you can also switch to the Amiga soundtrack or to the original C64 soundtrack. So that's nice. So that means it's actually a new Rainbow Arts release from this year, which is like, yay! Because normally, as we all know, those games, when there's something new coming out, would normally be released under Factor 5, which is basically the follow-up company of Rainbow Arts. But this game actually has been released under the brand Rainbow Arts again. So it was nice to see a new Rainbow Arts release from 2025.
Sure.
Yeah, so if you are missing Chris Hülsberg's work, go for the Boulder Dash 40th anniversary that was actually announced by Hans Ippisch, who is also a former Rainbow Arts employee. So
Is he not? Wasn't he in television for a minute?
Not only for a minute.
Is he still doing that?
Nah.
No, I didn't think so.
Nah. He's now into augmented reality entertainment for cars. That's his main gig right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know the details.
He's working on something called HoloRide.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I will link to that as well because we always link to all the stuff. Well, other news, we mentioned this before and now we can mention it again. The Angry Game Video 8-bit game has just
what? The Angry Video Game Nerd 8-bit.
Yeah, exactly. Just wanted to confuse it there for a second. Didn't work out. Anyway, it has been a demo released in coherent with the Steam Next Fest.
Okay.
So we will link to that now. And also, because you mentioned printers and Gregory Netzo before, C64OS 1.07 has been released.
With networking.
What is special about that? It contains networking. Yeah.
I haven't tried it yet. I'm going to download that maybe later today because I really want to. It's got a Wikipedia client in it, so you can browse Wikipedia entries. And if I can.
Nice.
Yeah, I've said it before. If I can do more of my tasks on that thing, I will absolutely freaking do that. Like if I can look up something on Wikipedia without having to do it on my phone or my computer.
I mean, you could do it before with Contiki OS. I did that myself, but that was before the internet was encrypted all over.
Yeah, I'm curious.
Nowadays it's not possible anymore, but back then.
Yeah, I'm curious how. I guess it's using a Wi-Fi modem. I don't know exactly how. I guess you can pull websites with that.
I mean, you can also use the one from Adam Dankers.
Yeah.
Because I'm using the modem from Adam Dankers that was produced by Jens Schönfeld. So that's what I'm doing actually.
See, there's a couple of different things with that.
I know.
I think what most people have are like the Wi-Fi modems, which are they act like any old Hayes 1670 modem. You know, it's an ATDT, and you can do like an ATDT to a website, and it'll give you something sometimes. Like if you do Google, it'll give you it'll give you a callback. But I don't know exactly what this uses to do it. I got to look that up because I got more Wi-Fi modems than I know what to do with. But I don't have anything other than that. I guess there is something in the there's an Ethernet connection in the Ultimate 1541. I have no idea. I've never been able to get that to work, so I don't know how what that does. I've never needed it.
You could always contact Gideon Schweitzer and ask him. You know.
Yeah, but it's been a situation where I haven't needed to. You know, I've got Wi-Fi modems that plug into the ports.
I'm using the corded network because it supports warp copy 64, which I'm using to transfer disks from the 64 to PC over the network. That's my preferred method, and it only takes a matter of seconds, and you don't need to fiddle around with SD cards and USB flash drives. You just have the raw experience with here's a file, here's a disk. Put it from the disk to the file or the other way around. It's pretty easy. Anyway, other news. We are recording this at the 23rd of February, and we will probably release this on the 1st of March. That's at least the plan. So by the time you listen to this, until the March 10th, so 10 more days, you can actually play the time-limited Tempest Rising demo, and it will continue to and it will contain single-player demos of the first seasons of the two fractions. At least that is what they announced on Blue Sky just a few days ago.
Okay.
So that's about that. And yes, and also I got sent from games.press from their key mailer. I got mailed a demo key for Steam for Hovercrease 2, and I wanted to talk about that pretty briefly. What is Hover Crease 2? It's a top-down action cyberpunk adventure. Plays a bit like the game Bombshell that you reviewed a while ago. And now, what's interesting about Hover Crease 2 is actually that it is playing in a world of mutated animals. So your main character is actually a female frog, kind of, with a British accent. And the interesting thing about it is because that didn't happen so often in the gaming industry since the 80s. I think the first example was like Afterburner 2, where the Afterburner 1 release never got released outside of an internal alpha.
Right.
Because nowadays you can still get the MAME ROM if you Google for it, you can get the internal alpha ROM of Afterburner, but they never released it. They straight went to Afterburner 2 because it has improved music basically and some improved visuals, so they totally scratched the whole game and only released on the arcades Afterburner 2. And they went with the same method here in Hover Crease 2. And here's the thing, why is that interesting? Because it's a game that actually released an alpha demo on itch.io, because I went deep into the history because I'm like that. And they started 2018. They started with an alpha demo on itch.io, and 2 years later, in 2022, they actually started Kickstarter. Now we all know what happened in 2022. Kickstarters had an awful bad timing because there was some virus spreading around the world, so that project didn't successfully finish funding, so it was actually cancelled because of that. Very unlucky, but they never really got rid of the concept of the game, so they made the male frog main hero a female frog, and improved the graphic engine and the gameplay and so on, and revamped the game Hover Crease, and now smashed the 2 on it, and now you can get the demo of Hover Crease 2, and it's supposed to be released this year. So you will get an improved game of a game that never made it to the public because of a pandemic, and therefore an unsuccessful Kickstarter. And you can actually play the improved version of the game without knowing the original. However, of course, the itch.io page is still up running, so you can still get the alpha demo from there if you want to know what the game was supposed to be.
I feel like, why not just, so if you're making a game, and you've got the game more or less completed, or you're working on it, and then something happens and you end up improving it and making it better, but you haven't released the very first version of it, why don't you just call the release the first one? Like, because unless you plan to release the first one later on.
Ask Team Sega, because that is what they actually did with Afterburner 2, which is actually why I brought it up as an example.
Yeah, right.
And that was 1988, and they never released the original Afterburner.
They must have had an intention to release the original.
Well, there was a Kickstarter, but that failed, as I mentioned. I mean Sega. Okay. Yeah.
That was Afterburner and Afterburner 2 different games?
No, the Afterburner 2 had improved music, and
it was the same. It was the same game with improved
improved visuals. Yes.
So it wasn't like they started from scratch and made.
No, they improved heavily the game. Yeah. Which is interesting because many people think that it was the same case with Street Fighter 2, but that's not true.
Oh no, that had
Street Fighter 1 actually was released, and that's actually.
Good.
and that was actually a meme because of the horrendous voice acting of the Street Fighter.
Yeah. Some games just don't get good until the second one.
Right. But anyway, you wanted to say you don't understand why?
Yeah, it just seems to me like if you didn't release the first one and you've improved it, you didn't start over. Same game, you've just improved some stuff. Just call it one. Unless again you intend to release one as an add-on or something else later on down the road, but it doesn't seem like they have an intention to do that if they're just improving the same game. You know, it's weird. I guess. I mean, you can call your game whatever you want.
I mean, it's also a selling point, you know. I imagine being a kid or a teenager in 1988, walking up to the arcade and reading like Afterburner 2, bang bang, fire, woo, 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 because you know it's an attraction mode. That is what arcade machines usually do because they want to attract players. You know, fire.
Do you have the shaky
fire,
around one? Do you have like the seat that moved around when you flew the plane?
No, in the arcade and pinball museum in Seligenstadt, they only have the stand up, unfortunately, not the sit in.
That was the shiz when I was a kid, hopping in that thing and having it bounce around as you flew the plane.
So
that was awesome.
Fortunately, I only have the stand-up experience. However, imagining being a kid and then wondering, I wonder what the first installment looks like. But not knowing that, in fact, there is no first installment. I mean, back then you didn't have leaked ROM files on the internet. Nowadays you have. You can actually, you know, you can also load up Lemmings ROM, the arcade ROM, into MAME that never has been released because somebody dumped the early alpha board. But why this company? It's called Altergaze. Why Altergaze never actually released the first installment of the game and just named it 2, we don't know. But perhaps to differentiate it from the failed Kickstarter.
Maybe, yeah, that could be.
That might be. And interestingly, it's actually Altergaze is not a game company per se. It's actually a creative technology company.
Oh.
And their tagline is, "We build cool shit."
Okay. Well,
yeah. So they are actually more into the VR kind of thing, you know, VR Googles and stuff, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
So that's the whole say on Afterburner and Afterburner 2 and Sega and all that stuff. So here's your history lessons. Your second one. First, you learned a bit about dot matrix printers with needles and pins and whatever.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Well, that went pretty smoothly. That's all the news I've got.
Want to talk about I can't think of who it is. Your Nintendo cartridge blowing up your machine.
Oh, totally forgot to put it in there.
Yeah.
Now that's quite interesting. Yeah, limited run games had a scandal again. Oh my god! You know, it's actually interesting because it's the 4 scandal. Like, no, they didn't have 1 scandal. They had 4 of them. You know, I mean, the first and the second scandal were actually the reasons why we had a hard time getting them as guests first, because they changed the attendance like 100 times until we finally had the interview. But here's the thing, we mentioned it earlier. There was a thing about plumbers don't work ties, I think it was.
Plumbers don't wear ties, yeah.
Exactly, where it actually was a CDR instead of a press CD, and that didn't work in many machines. And now they have a new scandal. Unfortunately, I forgot to put it in my text document, but I can go through our WhatsApp history.
Yeah, I was going to say, just look through our chat history.
Yeah. Or even go through Dennis' chat history. Because
essentially what happened was they used a different manufacturer for these games, for a couple of different games that made small batches, and they are not their normal manufacturers, and so they came back with quality issues, in which there was, I believe, a voltage regulation error that could, over time, brick your NES.
Exactly. And that was actually a thing that first appeared as a scandal from AliExpress and other places, reproduction cartridges in 2011. So this thing is not new. This thing is like super, super old because it has voltage regulators that were higher than they were supposed to be, and so it causes strain on the cartridge not on the cartridge electronics, but on the console electronics.
Right,
and that is why a few years later, when Capcom re-released Street Fighter 2 and Mega Man, they actually put a warning on it on the back, and I know it because I have the reproduction run where it says could be a fire hazard to your console.
That's always a good sign.
That's always a good sign. But we have also to mention Capcom did use good electronics in their cartridges.
Yeah. I feel like this is a big thing. I see a lot of people do these YouTube videos where they're repairing their machines from.
Yeah. Oh, wait, before we go into that, the two games into questions were Rugrats Adventures in Gameland and Pure Poo, and both games are recalled by limited run games. So if you have the cartridges, don't use them, please.
It's not a recall. They're not asking for them back, but they're going to send new ones out, I believe.
Yes, but anyway, the post talks about recall information because that is the I would say that is the term by law, I guess. Because you have a recall of a product, but
but usually the recall of the product means they take them back and get rid of them. This one they're saying you can keep it, but we're going to send you a new one. Don't use it.
Well, I have been a customer for the re-release, the reproduction run of Zack McCracken on PC, and to their defense, I noticed that the soundtrack CD had the last and the first track switched, and they instantly sent out a second repressed run of the soundtrack CD, despite it was only a little missing.
Yeah, I would have been like,
and nobody asked for it. So I actually have two versions of the audio CD now, one with correct track order and one without correct track order. Was that necessary? Not really.
Yeah, probably not.
But this one is big.
Yeah. Yeah, so I see a lot of people like on YouTube repairing old hardware. And the thing with that is that you've got, old boards, old stuff, right? Tends to have like your little a lot of this stuff. I'm going to pull out a prop. Excuse me while I fight with this. Open. My REU again. I used this prop last time we did an intro. I'm going to use it again if I can open it.
Don't break it on the way.
It's okay. Okay, so a lot of older electronics has kind of big, clunky, like, here you go. Here's an old board. It's got these little capacitor thingies along there. It's got these little doodads and sprockets, that stuff. This stuff goes, and when you're making new cartridges, you need things that do this that do the same kind of work as these things. A lot of this stuff, they don't really make like this anymore because it's been decreased in size. There's something that does the same job that is much smaller and surface mount or whatever. So when I see people repairing their stuff, a lot of times I see them using stuff that is parts that are close enough. They're not exactly what it calls for. Okay, this thing is supposed to handle like a 5 volt, throughput or something. Okay, well this one here is 5.2 or 4.8 or whatever. It's close enough. It's good enough for what we need it for. It's not going to hurt anything.
But but in this case, it's actually hurting.
Right, exactly. So this was a manufacturer that they don't use often. Okay, it's not their normal one, and I imagine their normal one probably understands that. Okay, we can't use these parts, or if we use this part, we have to use something else to step it back down or something. Whereas this place is probably like, okay, well, this falls within the range of what would normally be okay. But then you pop it in your NES, and your NES isn't expecting that kind of voltage to come out of a cartridge. So, yeah, it's just a manufacturing error, an oversight by people that thought this is probably good enough, whatever, you know. So, but they are remaking them. Are they? Is there a normal manufacturer doing the remaking? I don't think they're going with these people anymore.
What I will do is, I have good connections to the CEO. I will just email him asking if they can send me an official statement.
Yeah,
we did that for the other one and see what their official statement is, and put that here with a link to that.
Yeah, I'll give them credit in that they are handling it before it became a thing. Right. I don't know that anyone's machines have been killed. I don't think anything's been borked, but they've gotten on top of it before that's happened, and they've told people don't use the thing. We'll send you a new one.
Still caused a backlash.
It did cause a backlash, but they're also doing it. I don't think they're not charging anyone for the new ones.
No, of course not.
If you haven't gotten yours yet, they're just going to send you out the replacement, the correct one. Again, I'll give them credit for getting on top of it, because a lot of places these days, a lot of people running these, you know.
Oh, I'm actually wrong here in that X post there is along the original press statement. So I will just put it on the screen here so people can read it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. But yeah, so I give them credit for getting on top of it before it became a thing. Before they really got ripped up by people complaining that their consoles got borked.
Which was actually the case the last time. They didn't notice it themselves that the CDRs didn't run. The customers were actually telling them. So yeah,
it didn't break their machines though.
Right, but it didn't work either.
Right.
Imagine you go on eBay buying a whole expensive machine just to buy these new 2 games you bought, and then you figure out like the games don't even run. That's a big blow.
And then it bursts into flames.
Oh, that would be amazing. Yeah.
That would be, if I bought an expensive console and it burst into flames after I put my first game in it, that would be objectively pretty cool. That would be pretty funny. I'd have to kind of laugh at that a little bit,
but
not too much.
I remember your first reaction to this news was, and you told me they have a new QA guy hired last year, right?
No, you said they did. I don't know if I did. I didn't know that.
Your reaction was your first reaction was, why didn't he go open the product sample and have a look at the electronics before shipping it out to customers? That was actually your.
Yes.
Perhaps you can repeat it in your own words because.
Yeah. No, it was just a matter of, I would think again though, if you're so. Again, it's something where, like I don't know if quality assurance can be a lot of different things, right? It could be how well is something printed, how well does the game play, how does it fit in the machine, what are the tolerances and stuff. I don't know that they would necessarily know that. Oh crap, that voltage rectifier is off by 0.2. I don't know that that's something that you would get by glancing at the card. I don't know what the thing looks like. I don't know what it involves. Again, a lot of this stuff, you look at something like this, it's got all, it's got 1,005 chips and little blue lentil things and whatnot hanging out. The same thing today is a quarter of the size of this. So, or you can even probably do it on like a single chip at this point. So, I don't know that shush. I don't know that your QA guys would even really know what to look for in that regards, unless you had like electrical engineers, the designers of the thing. And again, I don't know what goes into the design of an NES cartridge. As a coder, like I program, and I expect the machine to do the work. I'm not concerned about what chips and what rectifiers are in the thing that I'm putting it there. That's not. I have no idea how that works. So yeah, it depends on what kind of QA they have, and again, it's one of those things where it might happen, it might not. So I mean, that QA guy could have been running that game for days and days on end, and nothing happened. And then some schlub, with a wonky power supply, plugs it in, and his NES explodes. But they got on top of it. It's being taken care of, which is nice.
Wow. Yeah, I mean,
in the first place, but
I mean, imagine if somebody found out 10 years later. That'll
happen. That will happen because the thing is that 10 years, 15 years, 20 years down the road, okay, this stuff is still going to be going on. And those original games that didn't get destroyed are going to end up on eBay or
for the
scalpers,
right? Rare first production run.
Yeah, or not even that. So just somebody that has a collection and gets older and wants to get rid of it, falls out of it, or dies or something. All their shit ends up on eBay. Some guy, oh hey, here's this game that came out in a limited run a couple of years ago. Yeah, I want that. Not realizing, not understanding that. Oh yeah, there was an error in the first run of these, so you don't want those.
Right.
Getting the thing, plugging it in, and suddenly, probably again not right away, but at some point it might backfire. It will be an issue again.
Ooh.
They should send out like a sticker that they could say, "Hey, relax, dude." Good Lord.
Wow.
The barkiest little dog in the world.
Well, while I put this up on X, I actually got a post from Voltar a few minutes ago. Perhaps I should read it because we mentioned him before. Voltar, the guy that got burgled.
Oh,
his shop a few months ago, and said he would stop.
Wasn't he gonna quit or something? He
said he would quit, and
he wasn't gonna rebuild the shop. He was just gonna call it quits and sell off what he had.
And he blocked most people that were commenting on the post because he got pissed. Now it actually might happen that he closed down because he posted an update. My friends, I have an unfortunate update. I have sustained a heart attack, and I'm in dangerous AFib. I don't know what's going to happen to me, but just want you all to know that it's been an honor teaching you and helping you going along the path of life and stuff. And he actually posted a video where he's loaded into the emergency car, so it actually seems to be serious. I treasure the many friendships that have been made there, and I hope that you will all continue to love each other and help out always. If I succumb to this, I guess means survive.
No, that means succumb means die.
Oh. Okay. Actually worse than I thought. All systems will be promptly shipped back. Give me your best vibes on this. Well, that's actually seems to be serious. Oh my god.
Well, if he's an AFib, that's not. I mean, that's an irregular heartbeat, but that can be fixed. A heart attack sucks, and yeah, you're gonna go to the hospital for that. But I mean, I don't. He's not that old, is he?
He doesn't look very old in the video. In the video,
I don't know. I didn't think he was that old. Like how old is that? What's the guy's name?
I mean, there have been cases where people had heart attacks at 25.
What's his name though?
I mean, Voltar. I just sent you the link in the text.
I got it.
In the text box.
Voltar's repair shop. Yeah.
Just sent you the link to the post.
Yeah, I'm looking right now. It is. This thing. I'm on his YouTube page trying to figure out. I don't feel like he was that old a dude. Like I it's tough to tell. I don't really have a Yeah, I mean,
Probably in his 40s, at most.
I mean, yeah.
Oh, it actually says soldering champion of 87.
Okay.
Okay, so he might be a bit older than I think.
Okay, I guess he could be in his. See, he doesn't look that old. He looks younger than us.
I know.
But
I
that could
know.
be. That's not saying much.
Thank you very much, HJ. Thank you very much.
No problem. But it's difficult because I don't know. I mean, maybe he's young. I have no idea. I don't know, man. I don't know what his name is.
I mean, in the video, he looks like 38. Maximum.
Right, that's what I'm thinking. Yeah, like late 30s, maybe early 40s. But if he's soldering champion of 87,
then he must be older. Yeah, no.
How old was I? I'm 46, and I'm in 87. I was like what? I was 9. No, I wasn't 9. I was 10 in 88. Yeah, 87 would be 9. Yeah, so I'm pretty sure. Yeah, he don't look that old, but
anyway, you can still
add 10 years. Add 10 years. Maybe he was 20 when he in 87, right? So add 10 years. That would make him mid 50s. That's still pretty young. For,
I mean, scroll down a bit to his last photo.
Yeah, I see
he's not looking 50 like that.
Well,
he's
getting loaded into the thing.
But of course, this is AI generated because it says AI is getting entirely out of hand. Okay, that is AI generated. Okay, I see.
Oh, is that AI generated?
Because it says AI is getting entirely out of hand. Yeah.
Oh.
And at the moment, there is a trend where people actually make AI make them look younger. So
yeah,
that could be an AI youth filter applied.
Either way, I don't want to speculate on how old the dude looks, but
anyway, you can still sustain a heart attack at 25.
Yes. Yes.
And many people actually have an undetected heart issue.
Yeah.
And then
it's pretty common.
I mean, better having a heart attack than outright die.
Yeah, one would say.
Because then you have a chance to actually get your heart fixed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I feel like that post there that he made was kind of in the heat of having a heart attack and going to the hospital. He's probably saying things that are pretty, he's feeling his mortality, I guess. But yeah, hopefully he doesn't go anywhere. I don't know him. I don't know. I'm not really into the scene.
I mean, you can see the video. He's
I see the video
into the ER in the emergency car.
Yeah, the ambulance. Yeah,
the ambulance car. Ambulance car.
Yeah, I wish him the best. Hope he sticks around. Not,
Man, I mean, I emailed you a couple of times. You never replied. But hey, if you make it back, we would be honored if you could email me back, and
if you live, give us a call.
If you could be a guest on the podcast, so that would be nice, and perhaps not talking about your near-death experience, but all the other stuff.
Or talking about your near-death experience. Whatever. Hey man, whatever.
Who knows?
We're cool. Yeah, we're all for it.
Whatever
gets you through the night, man.
Right. I mean, that is like not giving me shivers. That's such a woo. Like going on X, pulling up some link, and then seeing this.
Yeah.
Woo. I don't know.
Yeah. Ugh. Okay. Well. So I don't know if I got a couple of little news bits, but nothing.
All right. Hopefully not about heart attacks or something.
Nope. My heart is still in my chest at the moment. It has not attacked at this particular moment. Hopefully, I'm thinking that this spring, once it starts getting nicer, I really need to start exercising because I am over the last year, I have become entirely sedentary. I'm very, very kind of. It does not look it by looking at me in this picture. I still kind of seem kind of skinny, but I'm what I think I have what they call skinny fat.
Oh,
Where
skinny fat.
Like I'm fairly tall to begin with. I'm like 6'3", and I've always weighed like and I'll go into. I'm not. Do I have to do the conversion? I've always weighed about 190. Okay, which for everyone outside the U.S. is about 86 kilograms.
At what height?
That is
2 meters.
Hang on.
Are you a 2 meter guy?
No, I'm a 1.90.
Okay, almost 2 meters.
Yeah, a little under. Yeah, you've met me. You know.
I know. looking up to you. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Looking up to you.
So, but currently, I'm at 104 kilograms. Over the last year that has happened. So, which is about 230 pounds. Largely centered in this general area here.
Ooh. Okay.
So I need to start getting active again, and so I may have a heart attack in the spring when I'm trying to do cardio.
Okay.
I'm really like I can just about break into a slow jog before I collapse. So
okay.
Yeah, so it's not going to be pretty, but
alrighty.
You know. But hopefully,
good luck.
Hopefully,
good
I will
luck
not have a heart attack. Hopefully, I'll
good
survive.
Good luck for that. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so there is a C64 Petsky graphics editor called
Nice.
It is multi-platform, cross-platform rather. I don't really know much about it. I don't know really like so I've done a lot of Petsky graphics in my day. And almost all of
them
for
BBSs. Yeah.
Yes. I was going to say almost all of them actually have been done on that thing. Right. I've never used a cross-platform editor for it. Not because I don't want to, just because I have never found one that feels like I'm actually doing something.
Okay.
I don't remember what I used to use lately. For the last, I'd say 30 years or so, I've used Tyron Paint because it's a multi-screen and it scrolls down. It's a really, really good editor. I highly recommend. But PetMate, which is this one, the cross-platform Petsky drawing program, has a new release. It is 0.9.6b, which is
nice,
which gives you different zoom behavior and improved color selections. So that's around. I'm looking now. I want to know what it's. Can I? I don't see where the. Oh, that's just a dude. No, I want to see the actual software. Good God. Yeah. So I don't know what it runs on. I guess. Okay,
sorry.
Bless you. PC, AMD 64, ARM 64, x84, x86 64, FreeBSD. Oh, there's a DMG. I'm imagining that's Mac right there.
Yeah.
So there's multiple versions of it. Check it out. We'll put a link to all that stuff in the description where you can see it.
Nice.
I'm going to download it right now because I want to look at it later. And there is a new game out, a conversion. One is let me see here. Oh, my page is good God. Akalabeth, World of Doom. It is yes. So
World of Doom.
Yes, it is a. So it was an Apple II game. I guess made by Origin because it says that it was done with Lord British's blessing. So that has been released on a real 5 1/4-inch disc. And you can get that on credits. Original code Richard Garriott. Conversion and conditional code on. Okay. So there's it's a new conversion of this game that was out a long time ago. You can get that on the Dungeoneer Games website. And there's another one that it's Ultima Escape from Mount Drash. And I don't know where that's available from. I'm not seeing. So I guess that was for the VIC-20. But that has now been adapted to the C64 as well. And as soon as I figure out where you can get it, I'll put a link to that in the description. I'm just seeing the information about it, but I'm not seeing a link to it. So once I figure that out, we will add that. And that's all I got.
Awesome.
We should tell people. Before we do that, we should tell people that if you're watching this on YouTube, that you should like and subscribe.
Right, forgot about that.
Bring that little bell.
Right.
You know what I was thinking about the other day, because you brought that up, and I was, he for anyone listening, you texted me a couple days ago and said, we should probably be telling people to like and subscribe and all that when we do the podcast. And I was like, yeah, that sounds reasonable, because we don't do it. But then I was thinking, we did in the very beginning. Okay, and again,
and then we stopped for some reason.
Right, this podcast has gone through a couple of different. In the very beginning, we edited the crap out. We don't really edit it anymore. All our stenanks and mistakes kind of make it into the thing now.
Depends on the mistake.
Yeah. So. But a lot of times, these days we're way looser. Back then, we wanted to seem more professional. Now we don't really care. But in the beginning, we would end it with a bumper as well. So we had our intro, then the interview, and then we'd do like the sign out thing where we'd give the links to our guest and our own links and say you can find us here and there and go here and there and whatever. And then for some reason we stopped doing that. And I don't know when that happened. I don't think it was like a conscious thing. I don't think we said, hey, let's not do that this time. We just stopped doing it.
Right. Because we streamlined the process and stopped everything that made us taking hours to edit this stuff.
I think also it was the fact that we started doing because again, we used to do audio. Mostly everything was audio. Occasionally we would do a video podcast. And it kind of transferred into...
the first time we did that was actually Jarun Tells.
Right. But they were
test and tell.
Yeah. But they were occasional. They weren't every time. It was always audio, and every so often we would do video. And then at some point we just said, okay, well, if we're putting the audio on YouTube anyway, why don't we just keep the video in? Like, why are we throwing the video out?
Right.
That doesn't make sense.
Because for once we had discussion internally in the team, like Martin Wisnowski, for example, was somebody like, please make a video version all the time, And then people were messaging us like, hey man, can't you make a YouTube version? And then YouTube actually made an official podcast function now that you can actually have a dedicated podcast tab in your YouTube channel for podcasts.
But usually
that is how it evolved too.
Yeah, but when we would do this originally, when we do the original recording, we would talk to our guests, then like we still do. We still do our intro separately. Usually, we do the intro separately from the guest because we'll record the guest, and we do the intro close to when we release because it makes more sense as far as like current events and whatnot.
Yeah, exactly.
We might have talked to the guest a month and a half ago, but the intro is going to be current.
Right.
And that's how we've always done it. But at the time then, a lot of times what we would do when we were doing the audio version, we would do the intro, then I'd edit together the audio, and then I'd be like, oh, we did an outro. So I would just record an outro, and I would sometimes I'd take clips of Jörg going, oh, yes, and I'd stick him in the background so it sounded like we were both there.
Right.
But we can't do that if we're doing video of this. If we're editing it, and I don't edit it anymore. He does most of the editing. So it would just be kind of him sitting in front of a camera talking and maybe like sticking some of my voices into the background. It wouldn't work. So I think that's how we stopped doing it. And then we just kind of like it turned into and it's one of my favorite things is that every podcast kind of ends with an awkward okay, bye. Because we had the call with the guest. And it's never just like yeah, here's blah blah blah. See you next time. It's always like, okay, well, see you later. Yep. Click.
I know, and sometimes I would edit and I would change the order, so we would have a guest saying bye at the right moment.
Yes.
And woo, and sometimes we would say, so you would ask like, so where can people find this stuff? And then the guest would continue talking.
Yes.
And like,
yeah.
well, actually, this was supposed to be the end of the interview, so I have to turn it around on different places anyway.
Yeah.
So, and while I'm doing that, I'm like, well, we could also use the bye from the guest as the end of the podcast. I guess this is like it became more convenient this way. I think we went more with convenience rather than.
But so now we're going to be trying to make a concerted effort to be giving our own info and the like and subscribe thing in this, because that's sort of what you're supposed to do, I guess, on YouTube.
Yeah, I mean, interestingly, we had this discussion with our first Min and Mina Becker interview, where we wondered, if you are on YouTube for almost 20 years,
Mina Becker,
why don't you?
Really quick, before you do that, Mina Becker has some books out. Everyone should go check them out because they are really good. That's all.
I know. I actually got reading sample from one of her books a while ago. Right.
Me too.
All right.
But anyway, as you were saying, let's go. Okay, so right now, since we're done talking about liking and subscribing,
right,
let's go talk to Nordischsound.
Let me stop the recording just there. Today we have another guest, and today it's actually Benjamin Dibbert, also known as Nordischsound. And you are known basically for two things. You are a composer, you compose music for the C64, and you're also a podcast co-host for the podcast Nerdwelten with Hardy Hesterver and Daniel Coutier. So,
yes, that's right.
Welcome to the podcast.
Yes, thanks for inviting me.
Awesome.
I'm happy to be with you guys.
I mean, after I saw on your Facebook wall what was going on with CSDB, it even has proven the point that we definitely have
jumping right into it, aren't you?
Huh? What did you say?
I said you're jumping right into it, aren't you?
Yes, I mean, yeah, of course, yeah. Jumping into the meat. Yeah, but first of all, we should start with how did it actually start that you got involved into the C64, into making music, and became such a big household name in the community?
Okay, I think we should start in my childhood, because when I was 6, I made my first experience with Commodore 64. But back then, I just played the games. So I played the games, listened to the music, and fell in love with the sound of the SID. I had Commodore 64 very long then. The first steps I made on the computer from my brother, but then I got my own Commodore 64. A while after that, I got my first Game Boy and then a Nintendo NES. So all the Nintendo stuff, and a while after that, also PC. And yeah, somehow I never really stopped to listen to SID music. Even when I'm on the PC, I found the high voltage SID collection for the first time in the internet. It was in the early 2000 years, I guess. I think I sold my Commodore 64 then. So I don't have the hardware anymore. But I started to make my own music when I was about 19 years. So it has to be 2001, like that. So I made music, started with Fruity Loops back then. And that's the software I still use. It's now FL Studio. So that's my DAW, my digital audio workstation where I make my music. But then I started with chiptune in maybe 2019. so it's not so long ago. I started with my first steps in Femi Tracker with some NES tunes, but I never released any stuff. Then I had a talk in Nordwelten podcast with Elman, Markus Klein. Back then he had his album for house music and on Commodore 64. I find this very interesting, and so I made a podcast episode with him. At that time, I did not done any. I don't have any done any SID music so far, but shortly while after that, I started to make my first steps in Go Tracker. So I read the tutorial and made my first tunes, and there was some covers of the soundtrack from Deus Ex, the first Deus Ex game on PC. And yes, I loaded up to my YouTube channel. I had a YouTube channel since 2011, but nobody cares. And this cover, the people like that cover, and I got more subscribers out of nowhere. And I also uploaded this to CSDB, and that's how I got into the demo scene. And I don't see myself really part of that demo scene. I'm still a musician, but
right, yeah.
Very much into that scene now.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, it's interesting because your starting point sounds exactly like my story, except I never sold my Z64 stuff. But it's interesting also to hear that you were involved in the podcast before you actually did Go Tracker music. Okay, yeah. Interesting. Yeah.
Also, you started with Fruity Loops, and that's my brother did music for a very short time for the C64, and he had the same kind of the same progression. He started in Fruity Loops, putting things together, and then kind of backtracked to the C64. Is there is there something about it that like the pattern kind of thing that makes that work easier? That kind of makes, because I could never figure out music on the 64.
So totally different, because in Fruity Loops you just have the mouse and add the notes on the piano roll, and for the tracker I have to set all the notes like programming more, and it's totally different. And hexadecimal
yeah. I could never figure that stuff out. I was just a dumb coder.
It took me a while, but then there were some cool guys out of the scene that helped me at the beginning.
Cool.
Interesting. Yeah, I have to say, I'm like AJ. I never was into music, so I never heard about Fruity Loop, or as it's called now, FL Studio.
I was into it. I just suck at it.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm a drummer. Not real musicians.
All right. Yeah.
I just saw the documentary from Avicii. So you know Avicii, and he died sadly very young. And there's a new docu on Netflix you can watch. And there he also built his beats with Fruity Loops or FL Studio. And there's also a tutorial where where you can see he works with a program about maybe 1 hour, and you can just watch him. And it's so crazy because he used the same software like many people out there.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Yeah. Actually, I actually saw your cover of his famous remix before this interview. So.
Yeah, and then just working on a new cover of Levels, but that it's in progress, not released yet.
Awesome. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's actually the thing that also caused a bit of a controversy, I would say. I mean,
I was gonna say, when are you gonna make something original?
Yeah, I have to hear that often, but only on in the scene. So it's just people from the scene on CSDB maybe. They told me, you have to make original music, not covers. But then I make original music, post it there, and there's no one cares. So
Yeah.
I don't get it. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I mean-
make both, and I love to make original music. On the other hand, on YouTube, people are more interested in covers, I have to say. So when I upload a cover, I made this cover of Blue Monday. I uploaded it a few days ago, and that was mind-blowing because I have nearly 6,000 views and 80 new subscribers just because of this video. It's my best video so far.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah,
I
I don't
mean-
know why
I
the
mean-
algorithm likes me this time. Normally, it don't likes me very much.
I mean, it was clear to us that you did original music because you actually did music for the Scene World, for our magazine. So yeah. So we knew that, of course. And I'm just trying to find which piece it was actually. I think it had in its name, it had something called Blossom, but I don't remember
Yeah.
full title.
Yeah. Cherry Blossom, maybe.
Could be. I know it sounded a bit like it could be.
Chinese? Chinese Blossom, sorry.
Exactly, yeah.
I made this in 2023.
Hmm.
Yeah, on the 20th August last year. In
Awesome.
23.
Yeah, last year. Yeah, we are already in 2025.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Have to realize it.
I know it's one of my favorites. Not only because you made it for us for Scene World, but also because I thought it sounded a lot like it could be part of the Last Ninja soundtrack.
Yeah, it's definitely Asian, some Asian influences, and it's a very calm piece.
Yeah. So if they ever make another Last Ninja, they should hire you to contribute to the soundtrack, you know? Yeah. Well, unfortunately, the fourth rendition never came to fruition. Otherwise, yeah. I mean, perhaps that's a good question. What is your inspiration for new pieces?
Yeah, most pieces, for original stuff or for covers.
Both, perhaps.
For covers, I mostly cover stuff that I love mostly since my childhood or when I was younger. So I made very much tunes out of games from Nintendo or PC stuff like Command and Conquer or Deus Ex. It's all the music I love and I listen all the day. And before I started making my own SID music, I often just searched for popular music in the high voltage SID collection just to hear how it sounds on the SID. And if anybody did this so far, I also love to hear covers by other people.
True.
So I'm a fan of this.
Awesome.
And SID just gives the music a new flavor. So I don't try to make it the same piece. So more like a remix with some SID influences then.
Cool.
And for my original music, I also influenced by all the composers from game music and video game and also film music like John Williams or Vangelis or all the great composers out there. Japanese composers like Nobuo Uematsu, Koji Kondo, those guys. I don't know if you know, I'm also involved in the new game by Sarah Jane Avery. She made an RPG now. It's like Ultima, like the old Ultima games. And yeah, there I also do music, and I think I'm influenced by all the games I played in my childhood.
Yeah, I always used to like because you'd hear music on like an NES, and NES has a very specific sound. There's kind of like there's limitations to what each voice can kind of be like, and I always liked hearing that sort of thing converted over to the C64 and have like the SIDs, because the SID, Nintendo had a very specific sound, and Game Boy had a very specific sound, and Sega and whatnot, and the SID had this really kind of like those deep like fart crackles and stuff, like the bass and whatnot that it could do, and it had a real kind of like a big range of stuff. So hearing things on that was like, wow, it gave it like a whole different vibe than the original thing did. What do you like? What is it about the SID that makes it interesting for you to compose for?
Yeah, like you said, the NES is very limited, so you can't change the waveform on the fly. So you have 3 channels. Now it's more like 4 channels. So you have 2 pulse channels and 1 triangle. So it's mostly used for the bass sound of the NES, and 1 for the noise, for percussion. And then you have this sample channel, but it's very limited. So it's not very often used, and just very small samples because it takes too much space on the cartridge. And yeah, on the Commodore 64, you just have 3 voices at the time. It's not very much, but you can change the waveform on the fly. That's great. So you can build instruments out of many waveforms. So switching from one waveform to another. So you can maybe do a bass drum starting with noise and then ending with a bass sound. So you can combine 2 sounds in one.
Right.
So yeah, that's very interesting. And you have the filter.
Yeah. Do you prefer the 6581 or the 8580? The new or the old?
Yeah, so it's a new one, definitely, because it sounds much clearer and the drums are punchier for the sound I prefer. But I also love the old SID. But on the old one, you have 1 and 1 and 1, and it's the piece sounds different all the way on 3 different SIDs, and you don't have this problem on the new SID.
And then it also depends on what revision it is. If it has advanced resonance, the AR version, and then it sounds totally different as well.
Put a plug-in for the SID effects right now, where you can have both of them on there. My C64 has both SID chips, so. I
mean, it's interesting that you mentioned the difference between what you can do on the NES compared to the C64. I mean, there are actually there are actually 2 famous examples in games that actually did tackle that. And one example that I remember would be RoboCop 3, where on the C64 it has more like a melody line, but on the NES, Runtel decided to go with a stronger bass sound instead. Yeah, but less of a melody. While interestingly for Maniac Mansion, it's the other way around. On the C64, you just have your bleep and plop instruments, and that's making up the music. But on the NES instead, they actually used the additional sound channel and added a melody to the intros, the theme. So that's actually interesting. That they actually decided to make it, well, not totally, but rather interesting flavor, I would say, to the music of what is actually basically the same game, because on the graphic field, they are pretty much similar, at least.
Yeah, but I have to say I prefer the Commodore 64 version. There's also another feature we didn't mention so far. It's a ring modulation, and they use that very much in the sound for the intro.
Right.
Interesting. Yeah. Awesome.
But I love both.
Huh. So, you said you started out with making music for the NES, but at that time you didn't release anything. Now, I have to admit, I'm not so deep into the NES scene. Did you finally release something for the NES?
No, but I follow some YouTubers that doing covers also on the NES.
Okay. Okay.
Often you find demakes. That's when you listen to my music, you can call it demakes too, because you have a 16-bit song made on the Super Nintendo, Super Famicom. Then you make it to 8-bit, and there are many channels just doing this.
Right.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. But now I wonder, why did you never release your NES stuff? Did you think it was not good enough for releasing?
It was not a finished tune.
Okay.
Just learning the basics of the tracker, and
I see.
I
see. I mean, sometimes your timing is just perfect. I remember 2 years ago when you did your cover of Command and Conquer's Red Alert Hellmarsh from Frank Lepecki. That was exactly a week before we had the interview appointment with him. And I remember I actually used
I remember you told.
I actually used that bit. I hit it within this episode. I don't remember if I put it at the beginning or at the end. At some point, I put in your cover of Hellmarsh because I was like, "Wow, this is so perfect," and it's so nice to see a rendition, and actually, it's pretty good. If you know what the C64 SID is capable of, absolutely, you actually have this spot on. It's amazing, and that's also the thing. Your covers are not just special; they are often spot on. And you also did a new rendition also about the TMNT theme of Chris Hardlight, which is actually one of his worst pieces on the C64, I believe.
First or worst?
Worst.
Okay.
Worst. This composer is known for crazy music like Wings or Grand Prix Circuit or Cycles. And then he has like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and like, oh man, what did go wrong there?
I think one of the problems back then, or there were several problems. First problem, that they often had very limited time, so the programmers say you have to make the music, you want it in 2 days, or like something like that. And the other thing is they don't have the tools I have today. I have Go Tracker, a great tool. I have MIDI files. I have the original tunes from the NES. I can analyze all the stuff, making separate sounds from each channel and listen to each note by ear, or find MIDI files on the internet, analyze all the stuff. I don't have a button where I just push convert. So some people think that I can do something like that. No, I have to do any note by hand. But it's much easier today. I heard back then they sometimes got the arcade, and then they have to play the game and listen to the music and maybe record it on a cassette or something like that.
Right. Right. Exactly. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And I guess the other example would be Castlevania on the C64.
Yeah.
So like he didn't even hit the harmonics correctly. I was like, okay. But you are right about the times being tough with deadlines and so on. I mean, we had Dave Lowe on a couple of times to interview him, and he always reused his drums. So
and plus, I would also assume that if it's back in the day when you're making a game, like okay, say you're doing the music for Castlevania for the C64, all right, you're not concerned about making it a faithful rendition of the thing on the Nintendo. You're just getting it out for the 64 because you're assuming the people that are playing the 64 version probably don't have the Nintendo version. Otherwise, they'd be playing the Nintendo version. So you're probably not worried about making it sound quite right at the time. One of the interesting things that I was listening to some of the songs a few days ago, and you've got a cover of the Star Trek: The Next Generation theme, and it pulled me back to back in the early '90s. There was an online service in the U.S. called Quantum Link, which I normally have on that machine back there. I didn't do it today for some reason. But they had this thing called SuperCube, where you could they had chat rooms and stuff, and you could play music over it. You could download music on the fly and play it whilst you were doing that. And me being a kid at the time, I was, you'd go on and you'd see all these songs. It was always Star Trek and whatever else, and I'd be like, cool, download the song, and it would sound like nothing like the actual song. I guess maybe they were going off the sheet music, but on the 64, it would sound like it was like, this is way out of pitch, and this is weird, and this sounds odd. And yours actually sounds like a faithful rendition of it that actually has kind of like, but it's not just like a one-to-one thing. You actually, you add bass to it, you add other stuff, so it sounds good on the 64, So it's like I had a moment of being like, oh, I'm back there again. I'm like, oh, wait, no, this actually doesn't suck. Like, this is actually really good.
Yeah, that's something you hear very often in old covers. And I think most or many of these guys just were no musicians. They were kids building tunes, and maybe they were 15, 16 and just made it out of fun. So you very often hear wrong chords or wrong notes, and
They used that older C64, like that .mus format. It was like compute SID player, so you didn't really have bass or drums. It was just kind of very, very basic.
Very basic instruments. Yeah. No filter.
Yeah. So so your covers actually, like, they're not, as I said, they're not like one conversions of it. You add stuff to them to make it sound good on the 64.
Yeah. Because of the limitation, I can't do any orchestra music, so I have to make it my own version.
Which is an interesting. That's an interesting juxtaposition, because a lot of times, we've talked to, again, Dave Lowe, and some people that were, they did, 64 and Amiga and whatever else music back in the day, and now they're getting around to they're releasing orchestrated versions of it. Because what was in their head at the time was orchestral, and they didn't have the means to do it. Whereas you're taking stuff that might have that bigger palette, and you're actually like, you're changing it into something. You're kind of reverse engineering it into something, and having it still sound great. That's an interesting, like I said, it's an interesting juxtaposition from.
Yeah, it can go in both ways.
Yeah, exactly. It's not always that case. For example, some 3 years prior, somebody took up the original synthesizer version of Formula One from Rob Hubbard. So he would actually make the tunes first on the 80s synthesizer, and then do it more minimalistic so it could fit on the SID tune on the SID chip. And I think another example is Zach McCracken. You can also find the original synthesizer recording, and that was used as the original. That was used as the original, and then was used for the conversions. And so it's quite interesting. But Rob Hubbard is also one of those who did orchestra music releases.
Yeah.
It's quite interesting. And it also, I saw in some videos, people were actually doubting your compositions would play on the real SID, on the real computer. So you actually did re-uploads stating like recorded on a real C6 on a real SID chip or something. I saw that a couple of times, right?
I just when I first made my music for the very first videos, I don't had the hardware back then because I told you I sold my Commodore 64 and the first records were made in an emulator, and then after my first Command and Conquer track, that track you find in both versions on my YouTube channel. So there I write it made on real Commodore 64. But from that point, I always record on hardware. For my first videos, I don't made anything to the sound. Now I still do some mastering. So I usually don't add any reverb. I just made it for one video. There I add some reverb, but usually I just made some mastering so that it sound good on YouTube. That's my goal. Not to make it authentical as possible, because everyone can download the SID and listen on real hardware. On YouTube, I want the best sound that's possible. So that's the reason why I do some mastering for the final recording then. And then I add those this oscilloscope view.
Yeah, that's also true. Yeah, amazing. Amazing.
You mentioned this orchestra stuff. I also did some orchestra versions.
Really?
One is Ghosts and Goblins theme from Mark Coxey, and the other one is the intro from Gianna Sisters by Chris Hülsbeck. And you can listen to that on my YouTube channel.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, because it's the piece of Chris Hülsbeck that I don't like, and people give me shits for it. I totally don't like the Gianna Sisters music. I'm sorry, it's not going. It's not going along with me.
Okay.
Yeah.
But the remix might be good.
The remix might be good. Yeah. I don't know. It's my least liked piece from Chris Hülsbeck. You know. Yeah. I don't know. It's probably just me. Yeah. Now let me ask. I'm sorry. Now let me ask you, Chinese Blossom. Did you actually plan when you made this piece of music for us to make it sound like a Last Ninja kind of soundtrack related piece? Or was that totally coincidence?
It might be. I have to listen to that track again, but it might be that this is a track I did in the past with some software instruments, with some Chinese erhu software instrument, but I don't know. I'm not 100% sure if I made this composition for the Commodore 64 or if there was another version before. Maybe.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, why not? If you had something almost ready, why not use it, right? I mean, it actually happened more often than people think. For example, Ghostbusters is probably the most known game that came to fruition this way. Now I forgot the name. Who did Ghostbusters again?
Yeah.
Now I totally lost it there. Was done by David Crane. Yeah, for example, David Crane. The game was basically ready, but and then when they got the license at Activision to make Ghostbusters, he just slapped on the Ghostbusters franchise thing, and then there was the game. So obviously, you probably have some unfinished music tracks as well that you can just polish, finish, and then like, here's a new SID, kind of, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, sometimes you have composers that actually release their never released pieces after 30 years. I think Chris Hülsbeck was one of them at some point. So
yeah, he did some releases back then.
Awesome.
So let's talk about the RPG that you're currently working with Sarah Jane Avery for, because that kind of kicked off just a couple months ago, right? She put out a call for maybe working with a musician, and you answered that call.
Yes, that's right. Some friend called Tim on X write me some private message that Sarah is looking for a musician, and yeah, then I took her video, and there was also a piece I wrote back in 2006, I guess, in Fruity Loops back then, and yeah, it's called Dealing with a Merchant. I always thought it was some piece for an RPG where you have to buy stuff at a merchant, and then I made a SID version. Took me, maybe 2 hours, and then I mixed the SID version with the visuals from the video and uploaded it. And she said, she likes it, and that's how we came together to work on the game. And now you can also at this time there are 3 preview videos on her channel on YouTube, so you can listen to all the music so far I made.
Okay.
Oh, awesome.
How is the process of making music for like a game in development different from just making music? Is there anything different?
For some tunes, I only have the beginning, so I just setting the mood there, and we try different things. So I make music, and she said I need music for that or that or that, and I just sent her these small pieces, but we have to make them longer in the end. I think
longer even. Okay.
Just for example, the overworld theme, it's maybe a loop. At the moment, it's 30-40 seconds long.
Okay.
I plan to make it at least 3 minutes or more without a loop.
Yeah, because
so
what it's like to have a game where the music is like 10 seconds and just loops over and over and over again, and after 45 minutes you're going slowly insane.
For example, Street Fighter 2, where they gave so much or so little space for the music that the main theme is for all stages is the same, and it's a 15 seconds loop. Yeah, totally remember that. Yeah. But I guess nowadays with multi-load and better programming and compression techniques, you can actually make the music longer than the shorter.
Yeah, and Sarah just plans to make this on cartridge, so as far as I know, there will be a disc version. So the space isn't so much a problem.
Even better.
Yeah, and people already like the variety of the music. So there were some comments on YouTube where they say in old games you often have just 1 or 2 tunes, and in the preview you can listen to 8 or more tracks already.
Awesome. If I'm not mistaken, prior to that, she did the music all herself in her past games.
Yes,
but I might
right.
be wrong here. Yes, that's correct.
Yes, I think so too. She did all the stuff by herself: programming, music, graphics, and now we are a team of 3 people. So there's also a graphic artist making some sprites and avatar pictures.
I wonder, did you ever talk? Did she ever talk about that? Why she decided to go from a solo dev to a team?
No, but I think she wants to make the game real big, and she also writes a story. You might know that you can also buy books from her on Amazon. So her books about with the witches. I don't know the exact name. Where she also made the game with the witches.
The Bradley Witch Craft.
Yeah, that's right. Based on her book, and she's an author there too. So
wow,
she can now focus on that. Good story, and the programming. Great. She's a great programmer.
And I mean, you are a very skilled composer, if I may say so. Hey, she picked the right person, you know. She picked the right person. So that's basically it. Yeah. Perhaps let me talk a bit about because I would like also to shed light on that. Because I don't know much about it, but how much involved are you in this podcast you are working with the other 2 guys on? Perhaps you can tell us a bit about this side of your activity, despite perhaps HA couldn't much contribute because it's a German podcast, obviously. But perhaps we can talk a bit about it.
Yeah, you might know I'm very busy with my music, and then I have my my regular job 40 hours every week, and so I usually play the games. Hardy, we decide both which games we want to make. So I make some suggestions he too, and then we decide if it's a good game for the podcast. And when we have a game, we play the game, and usually he makes the script then and do some more researches because I'm already very busy with all the other stuff. Yeah, and then we record the episode. Sometimes when I have an idea for another episode, there's sometimes the case that I make some episode without Hardy. So I made Duke Nukem 3D with Dan alone, and then I made a new episode with some Synchronsprecher.
Voice-over artist would be the English term.
Some German voice-over artist who makes games and animes, and that episode will be released next week. And
interesting. Can you reveal what kind of voice-over artist it is, or is it a secret yet?
It's a secret.
It's a secret. Ooh, okay. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting for me because when I started making scene and all that stuff, I totally got away from German voice-over versions, and I'm happy that nowadays you can basically switch to the English original. Mm-hmm. So all what I watched on television as a kid back then in German, I don't watch in German anymore.
It's a great way to become better and learn better English.
That's also true. That's also true. Yeah. But I mean, before this recording, for example, we had a little discussion, AJ and I, about Columbo, and Peter Falk is a good example. His voice actor changed so much over the years because because of contractual reasons, or because the voice actors simply reached their end of their lifetimes, and it's actually you have a whole problem that you don't have if you just use the voice of the actor himself.
Did their voice actors sound like them? Like, did Columbo's voice actor sound like Columbo? Like, what was it? Because I've seen some things where it's not the original English, but there's a guy that's got like a deep, cool voice, and he's got this other random. It's
depends.
I watched this movie. It was an Italian movie, but it had an English voiceover, and I remember I was a kid at the time. I still remember it. There was this big froggy mafia looking guy sitting at the table, and he's like, he comes over, he sits down, he's like, "Well, gentlemen," and it's like it totally took me out because the voice did not match any of it. It's just because it was some just random American voice they got to do the voiceover.
Right.
So.
Well, I guess there are two examples I could put, because it actually happened fairly recently for me. For example, The Simpsons. Homer. Totally Homer totally doesn't sound in German like the English.
What's he sound like?
Totally different. Less goofy, more serious. And it actually, there was almost a scandal for Marge, because when the German voice actor for Marge died, the new voice actor, which is also a famous comedian here in Germany, Anke Engelke, actually tried to mimic the raspy voice of the American original of Marge. So that was almost a scandal, because the German fans didn't understand that she was trying to mimic the English American original. Yeah. And another example I remember is Police Academy. There is this crazy guy who is a villain, and he has a very, very very high-pitched voice.
Which guy?
I don't remember what his name was actually.
Which movie?
Police Academy 2, right?
2.
Could be. He has a very high-pitched voice, and in the original, in the English version, because he's a comedian and that's his thing, And for the German version, they actually picked a voice actor to mimic that exact high pitch. Yeah. Voice actor, easier than saying voiceover artist. Voice actor is probably the yeah. So those two examples.
Bobcat Goldthwait.
Huh?
Bobcat Goldthwait.
Could be.
Yeah, he's got that kind of weird. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Exactly. And there was this example where they actually picked somebody for the German version that had a very similar voice.
I don't know how you could do it without the voice. It's
exactly.
Yeah, I remember the German dub.
Yeah, exactly. And the other person where they did the same was actually a female police officer. She also has a very Mickey Mouse like.
Oh yes.
Voice.
Very, very squeaky. Yeah.
Exactly. But I think
it's been years since I saw those movies. I can't believe I remember that.
Right. I think apart from Police Academy and perhaps Simpsons nowadays, I don't remember any series or franchise where they put so much effort in making the German dubbing sound so close to the original voice actor's voice.
Right.
Perhaps Benjamin, you can add to it if you remember something I forgot. I'm not really a big movie buff, I must admit.
For me, it's a mixed bag. Sometimes I like the original version more, but sometimes I like the German version more. Like for Wonder Years, some of my favorite TV series. there is this speaker who speaks from the off, and it's the older Kevin Arnold, and I really love the voice from the off speaker, the German one. It's also the from the tapes of He-Man, Masters of the Universe. He's not the cartoon. There is a German Hörspiel.
Good question. now you're
child for a cassette player for children. So the story is just made in audio.
It's probably something simple. That I mean, we have a dictionary. Let's look it up. Okay, it's called audio drama.
Yeah, it's not a drama, but okay.
Yeah.
HA, does this sound correct? Audio drama?
Yeah.
So something like a story told in audio. Yeah.
And then you have something like Bud Spencer and Terence Hill, where the German version is just funny as hell, and I don't want to watch the original Italy version. I think it's really boring when you compare it to the German one. So
true, but the special thing here is we should mention that they didn't even put so much effort into the voice actors. They actually rewrote the whole dialogue in German to make it sound more funnier.
Really?
And sometimes the story told in the German version has nothing to do with the original, as he just said,
It was just it was the time back then where they did that a lot. Also for Eastern movies, kung fu movies like Iron Monkey or old Jackie Chan movies, so much funnier because of the German dub with all these quotes there.
Yeah. Huh.
Right. Yeah. Okay, I guess we got it basically, right?
Yeah.
So I wonder what's next for the future. I mean, now you are making game music. You reached all your goals, or what's coming next?
Have you?
Yeah, I think my main goal is growing with my YouTube channel, because the audience there is just so awesome. I get only positive comments, not like on CSDB. But I have to admit, after I got this comment, I don't should do covers anymore. Many people on CSDB also said that they don't think like this person. And there are great people on CSDB as well.
Obviously, yeah. I mean, there are always people.
Yeah,
who disagree.
Good people and people that they hate. But yeah, I don't care.
There's always that loud minority.
Yeah. And then and I'm really excited about the game, how this will turn out. And I made the game for Timor's Castle. I don't know if you played this one. We released it in summer last year, and there I did the music for the bagpipes.
Oh.
On the Commodore 64, that was really special to do those bagpipes tunes for the intro and for the ending tune also, and all these little pieces within the game, and sound effects.
Nice.
Awesome. And also, I've read that you have announced recently you have different plans for the YouTube channel to actually change your release schedule.
No, I canceled this.
You canceled this? Okay.
Yeah, that was before I worked with Sarah, and after I made this decision, I realized that I don't want to have the stress working on the game, and also I have to upload a video on YouTube every second week.
Right.
But when it's done, it's done. Sometimes it's more than 2 weeks, and sometimes it's less. Just upload my stuff, and yeah.
Are you that quick with making a piece of music? Yes, 2 weeks.
It depends on what it is. And we talked about the instruments a while ago. You mentioned that. That all SID musicians also often used the instruments more than one time. I use that too. I think that's part of the sound. Every SID artist sounds a little bit different, and that's because you make your own library of sounds. What sounds good, you save that instruments and use that again. But you can have some routine, but when you make a new cover, it can also sound like shit. So you have to usually to make a lot of tweaks to the sounds, but you have some basics and you can start and then work with this. And then it depends how complex the song is. It might take 3 to 15 hours to make one cover.
Okay.
So do you sometimes have a striking idea and write it down and make a tune of it later?
I usually make the refrain. Refrain ist falsch. The verse? No.
I'm not into music. I can't help you.
Yeah, the main part of the tune.
Okay.
This is the chorus. I start with this, and when this sounds good, and I think it can make a full SID version, then I add all the other parts, like the intro, the outro, the bridge.
Interesting.
Okay.
Yeah, but I have to do a little test. About maybe 10 or 20 seconds long if it works. I can see it.
And how do you work on covers? Do you actually do it by ear?
By ear, or if I find a good MIDI file, I also open that in my FL Studio, so I can analyze all the voices there. So we have some bass, or we have the chords, or the melody. Yes, but sometimes even MIDI files are wrong with some wrong notes.
Right.
I listen to the original source song as well, and I have different sources to work with.
Yeah, I mean, we have to take into account that MIDI files actually are just a description file that tell you which instruments to play, but how it actually sounds depends
dependent on whatever software and hardware you're using.
Exactly. Yeah.
But usually the software and hardware today is very good, so MIDI files don't sound very bad like in the 90s or
There are actually YouTube channels that do this.
Unless you listen to those MIDIs that came with Windows 95, I think. You know, the two like really famous things. They sound bad no matter what.
Yeah, the Canyon, and then there was another one. Yeah.
They sound terrible no matter what you listen to. Because I remember I had Windows with the MIDI, and it didn't sound great. And I had a Mac, and their QuickTime's MIDI sounded a lot better. I was like, wow, there's actually like sustain on like the drums and stuff like that. And I played these files. I'm like, oh, they sound exactly the same as they did on the Windows system.
Oh, I guess I have to do a SID version of Canyon.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I mean, than MIDI.
And I mean, some versions of Windows even came with Dance of the Sugar Fairy, which is actually one of the pieces from the Game Boy Tetris. And it was like, oh my God, they put that there.
The Sugar Fairy? I don't know that one.
Yeah.
Probably
Sugar
do know
Fairy
it's-
Plum. Dance
What?
of the Sugar Fairy Plum.
Ah.
Sugar Fairy Plum.
Tchaikovsky.
Oh, yeah, okay. It's probably, yeah, you said Tetris, so it's
Yeah.
Yeah.
I probably
And
know
that's
the
also
song. I
used-
just don't know what it is.
And it's also used for the Game Boy Tetris. Yeah. It's quite interesting. But I mean, I'm one of those people. I still have a dedicated Sound Blaster card in my Windows 11 installation, so I can still change the MIDI mapper if I want to. Yeah, and
Oh, that song. I'm listening to it now. Yeah, okay. I know that song.
yeah,
That's
right.
the Sugar Plum Fairy. Yeah.
Exactly. And yeah, and I mean, you can actually like a Roland synthesizer and put it there and put it through and stuff. Interesting.
Mm.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, well, I guess we got it covered pretty much.
Yeah. Where can people go to find out, to follow you along with you, your websites and channels and whatnot?
Sorry.
Oh, where can people go? Like where can they go on the web to follow along with what you're doing?
Okay. Mostly I release my stuff on youtube.com/Nordischsound. They can
Awesome.
find all my stuff, and also on CSDB when you want the source files, the original SID files and the PRGs, so you can play it on the real machine.
Awesome.
Oh, if you say PRG, that means you also deliver a player routine with it sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes there is a picture. I don't make it by myself because I'm not a coder. Sometimes people help me. There's also a tool called pSID. So you just have to take the SID and it makes a player routine. I often use that. And there are other guys that made a player just for me. If you take a look at my newer releases.
Awesome. And you've got is it a SoundCloud or a Bandcamp or one of the two? I was just
I'm also at Bandcamp. Yes.
There you go.
SoundCloud. I am at SoundCloud, but I uploaded a long time ago, and it's really long ago that I made updates there, and also on Spotify. And every other music streaming service, but there is not much going on at this time. Maybe 80 streams per day.
Well,
so I don't earn money with that. So
well, maybe there'll be some more after this. We'll put links to all of that in the podcast description below, so people can follow along.
Awesome. Yeah. So one last thing, I don't know if you heard one of our past episodes yet, but we always
I have to admit, I watched the videos today for the first time.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Okay. You know, I have
okay. Just wanted to
very
say,
less time and always busy with my stuff, so.
No problem. Yeah, I mean, it took a bit till we found time for this interview, so I'm happy that we finally did it. I mean, it might actually be the first interview in English, right?
Yeah, it's my first interview in English. I only did some tutorials. You watch that on my YouTube channel for Go Tracker. So yeah, it's also available when someone wants to learn how to make some music with Go Tracker. You can watch some tutorials on my YouTube channel, and these videos are also in English.
Now we learned a lot about what's going on about you, so thanks for taking the time.
Yeah, thanks for sitting with us.
Awesome.
Yeah, I have to thank both of you two as well.
No problem.
Nice time with you.
It was our pleasure.
Awesome. Glad to hear. Yeah, right. So let me think. So this will probably go out in February. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I will let you know when we release this.
Yeah, we'll wait.
Awesome.
Facebook.
Awesome. We stay in touch.
Yes.
Okay. Well, so I could say have a nice rest of your evening.
Yeah.
It's almost night in Germany, so.
Yeah. Thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Have fun.
Talk to you
guys.
then. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.
All right.
Okay.